is Florida's Congressman Mike Haridopolos. He represents the 8th District, and thank him always for coming on the show because he's always been a clear voice on these issues, a clear voice on key issues that matter, not just to the Patriot audience, but to the American people. So, Congressman, let's start with the SAVE Act and this DHS mess. Where do things actually stand right now?
Well, first up, David, thanks as always to have me on. Look, this is beyond frustrating. As you know, in the House of Representatives, we have passed full funding for the DHS, not part, but full, meaning that we are funding the Coast Guard, FEMA, TSA, and, of course, ICE. It is essential that we continue to round up these bad folks who have wreaked havoc on the country once they got here illegally. And it's just preposterous that the Democrats will not fully fund the DHS program, which we think is essential, especially after the attacks in Michigan, 2 of them, Texas, let alone Virginia. And so we think it's essential. We are going to pass it again today because what people are going through at airports is absolutely unacceptable. And I just don't understand why Democrats play games with people's lives, let alone create what should be a fun vacation or a business trip into havoc because you have to get to the airport so early. On the other front, of course, that being the SAVE Act, the Democrats are playing the same game. They will not allow us to get this vote. As you know, we need 60 votes in order to pass it. And they just don't want to put the precautions in place that we all should have to make sure that only Americans vote in an American election, as they put up these ridiculous terms like Jim Crow 2. They should probably take my history class to understand what Jim Crow 1 was before they talk about Jim Crow 2.
Well, this is for many, if not all of these prominent Democrat leaders and others out there, the professional prognosticators and pundits in the media, for them it's a game being played at the expense of American security and those TSOs, the safety officers, the transportation safety officers, and their families. There's a level of cruelty there because a policy difference that won't be resolved by this fight, and that is specific to the funding of ICE, which is now set through 2029. It won't solve it. And it's not as if there is a path for them to even get, if there was one, to get an answer that would satisfy them from the Republicans. To your fellow Democrats in the House of Representatives, I mean, do you ever ask them or speak to them about the cruelty of what they're doing?
I just think they don't have any remorse. I mean, it's just blank stares when you ask them the question. Remember last fall, they did the exact same thing with no result, pure politics. It's just nonsensical. Now, what I've done in a small way, I'm not taking pay until this is over. I'm trying to, understand what these people are going through. I meant 41 days without being paid. This is 3 paychecks now. And these people do important work. I mean, look, we are in a conflict with Iran. We know how radical so many of their followers are. We've seen these 4 incidents on the homeland, and they just turned a blind eye and played politics with it. And they're trying to say, no, we passed TSA funding. Well, it's just a game the Democrats play, and sadly, the mainstream media parrots their points, and it's why I love talking to you, David, because you're going to call balls and strikes. When we screw up, you're going to call us out. And when they play these games, you tell the people the entire story, not the latest Democrat talking points.
I flew yesterday, and luckily, from Miami to Newark, I had no issues, and other airports are seeing incredibly long times. But there are a lot of smaller airports in the country, and whether large or small, there's also an economic problem here where we as a country are losing a certain amount of GDP due to the shutdown, and when combined with the conflict in the Middle East and oil and other issues, we're seeing this drag on the economy. Do the Democrats not get that dragging down the economy is a bad thing for, well, Democrats included?
Well, that's what I get. I think that they are willing to do anything to acquire power. You see these guys who want to run for president literally throw their own mothers under the bus. whether it be a guy in Illinois or in California or Pennsylvania. And then you're seeing this case where the ends justify the means, almost like the Communist Manifesto, that if the economy is not doing as well, they hope they can get back into power. This is how they think. They think that everything should revolve around Washington, D.C., and if the economy takes a hit, does it matter to them if they can reacquire power in Washington? This is their only mindset. They show no concern for these TSA workers who have not been paid now for 41 days. And these are real life. These are real life people not being able to pay their rent or maybe their car payments. And this is why a lot of people are leaving the job, because they realize it's not worth it. And I think you're going to see a lot of airports, which 20 of do currently. 20 airports have private security, of course, overseen by TSA, but so they don't run into these problems. And I think that's going to be the future direction, because people don't want to see their lives disrupted as not only employees of TSA, but also all of us who are traveling don't want to go through the maddening process because the Democrats are playing silly political games.
That point, I think, will be well noted by some of these airports, and hopefully Americans are paying attention that TSA is an option. A lot of these airports don't like having to foot the bill, so they have TSA, but maybe they'll consider not being held hostage by the politics of the Democrats. Let's transition to something that, from a personal note, is a lot happier story. You chair the Space and Aeronautics Subcommittee. I've got a treat for you, Congressman, something I know you haven't heard unless you've listened to me and caught it in past years. I knew Alan Shepard, knew a lot of these astronauts that went to the moon the first time around. Alan was a good friend. And back in 1994, this is what he had to say in my studio.
There was a moment on the lunar surface when I was literally overwhelmed, overcome, if you will, by looking back up in the black sky at planet Earth. It's absolutely fantastically beautiful. It's 4 times as large as the moon, relatively, but one can see color, blue oceans and white ice caps, and sometimes the outlines of the continents, depending upon the weather. It's just an overwhelming sight, and seeing it up there, it really looks fragile. Down here, we think that the resources are limitless, and we're infinite. But hey, folks, this planet is finite. It is fragile, and then you think about people arguing with each other all over the world, and you think, gosh, I was really emotionally moved by that sight. If anybody had said Shepard was going to shed a couple of tears on the moon, I would say, no way, folks. But it's just an overwhelming emotional moment.
In many ways, what's going on the planet right now, this audio from a man who went to the moon, who understands the importance or understood the importance of the space program, adds up.
I couldn't agree more, and it's fascinating. And to go around the moon for the first time since 1972 is amazing. These guys are American heroes, and we have 4 astronauts going up maybe as early as April 1. And again, as the chairman of the committee, it is so exciting to see our space industry so strong now, not just, of course, NASA, but the private sector as well. Again, thank you for covering that. And remember, it's one of the real inspirational stories, American space flight, and how we are dominating in space, and how important it is, not just to commercial or business needs, but of course the military needs as well.
And to that point, Congressman, the Space Command, unfortunately, we've lost one of those service members as well in this recent conflict, played a very big part in the initial attacks in Iran. And also it's important to our national security, our business, for those of you who are computer nerds, to the potential for quantum computing in space.
It is. It's the future. And as you know, the energy needs we have as well. Elon Musk has talked about potentially data centers in space. It's just fascinating what the potential is there. And to see these big billionaires, putting their money where their mouth is, and this potential exploration is fantastic. And we are just blessed to have a booming economy where I live because of the interest in space and the potential. And we even see kids right out of high school going to work in the space industry because of the programs we're creating, reflecting what the business community needs. It's a welcome change to the education system.
Mike, to your point, Alan Shepard would, this was his demand, his ask, when he was asked to speak publicly. Not an honorarium, but a donation to Space Camp. I just remembered that as I'm listening to you talk. And the importance of this with the private sector and NASA working together.
Exactly the case. And that's why this is something Rick Scott and I talked about, of course, now as a U.S. Senator and now I'm a congressman. When we were leaders in Florida, we wanted to create public-private partnerships that make a real difference to take place, not just having the government run NASA program. And it is booming because we have opened up the private sector about how things truly work in the world. And it's a real shining example of success here in America.
Congressman Mike Haridopolos, sir, thank you for joining me this morning. At least for the moment, we were able to, let's call it, end on a happier note rather than just...
That is a welcome change, isn't it, David?
It sure is, Mike. Thank you.